Welcome back, learners and curious minds, to another exciting episode of Genius Talk. Today is an extraordinary day on Genius Talk as we discuss language policy with not one but five brilliant and educated geniuses. Their diverse perspectives will enrich our exploration of language's impact on culture, society, and education. So get ready for an enlightening conversation like no other. So let's dive in and welcome our esteemed guests to this special episode. Join us on this intellectual journey where knowledge knows no bounds. So let's begin. Lankan?
Yeah, let's give a warm welcome to our five genius guests. First, Ms. Shehani, an expert in language policy and curricular development, bringing a wealth of knowledge and experience. Secondly, Mr. Namal Adhikari, a renowned authority on English language education policy in Sri Lanka with a passion for teacher development and deployment. Ms. Krishanti, a leading scholar in state intervention strategies related to language policy, bringing valuable insights. Ms. Achintana Dishanayaka, an expert on non-sector state deployment, offering a fresh perspective on language policy initiatives. Finally, Ms. Bhagya, a brilliant mind in the field of language and society, providing valuable context to our discussion. Sachin.
Okay, so let's kick off our discussion with Ms. Shehani. The first question is for you. What exactly is a language policy?
Okay, first, I would like to thank you for inviting me for this discussion. And if I give you a brief introduction about a language policy, it is a body of ideas, laws, rules, regulations, practices, which intended to achieve the planned language change in societies, groups, or systems. We can categorize this into mainly three parts: language ecology, language ideology, and language planning. So, in other words, it's language practices, beliefs, and the management. So I think I have given you an satisfactory answer for that. Nilanka?
Mr. Namal, we'd love to hear your perspective on the English language education policy after the 1980s. How has it evolved? And what are your thoughts on its impact on language learning and education in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, Nilanka, that's an interesting question. See a significant change after 1980s. Sri Lanka's English language education policy underwent a paradigm of shift after 1980s. Right. Basically, emphasizing bilingualism and Sinhala and Tamil became the primary language instruction with English as a subject. Right. And lot of efforts were made to improve English proficiency through national curriculum frameworks and teacher trainings and technology integration. So these are some of the key aspects after 1980s. And also, not only that, with these measures, it is aimed to equip the student with necessary language skills to thrive in the global job market and promote equal access to education across urban and rural areas.
So thank you
I think you
very
got the
much,
answer,
Mr.
Nilanka.
Namal. So now let's direct our next question to Ms. Achintana Disanaika. Could you please explain how this policy has influenced curriculum development in Sri Lanka? What changes or adaptations have been made to align with the language policy, and how has it impacted the educational landscape? So we are eager to hear your insights on this matter.
Yes, thank you, Sachini, for raising another important question. So when we take the Sri Lankan context, so language policy has had a vast impact on curriculum development, of course. So, language policies in Sri Lanka have aimed to address issues of language diversity and equity, primarily between the two major languages spoken in the country, Sinhala and Tamil. So we have to discuss some points in order to elaborate the thing. So I'm going to share a slide, of course, for the ease of understanding. So first thing that we are going to discuss is official languages. So Sri Lanka has recognized Sinhala and Tamil as its official languages. In the early years of independence, the medium of instruction in schools was primarily English. However, with the implementation of language policies, there was a shift towards using the national languages as mediums of instruction. The second point that we have to discuss is medium of instruction. Language policy decisions have influenced the choices of medium of instruction in schools, of course. In 1950, Sinhala was made the sole official language of the country, and it led to Sinhala become the primary medium of instruction in the schools. So this decision resulted in significant changes to the curriculum to incorporate Sinhala as the medium of instruction. The third point is bilingual education in the country. So in response to the language-based tensions and conflicts which prevailed in Sri Lanka back then, efforts have been made to promote bilingual education. This includes providing opportunities for students to learn both Sinhala and Tamil languages regardless of their ethnic background or their mother tongue. So the curriculum has been adjusted to include language learning components, and also on the other hand, to promote bilingualism as well. The next point that we are going to discuss is national and regional curricula. Sri Lanka has a centralized national curriculum, but language policy has influenced the development of regional curricula as well. So in regions with a predominantly Tamil-speaking population, there are separate curricula that incorporate the Tamil language and the literature more extensively. This showcases the aim of language policy to address the linguistic and cultural needs of different communities, of course. The fifth point is inclusion and equity, which means language policy has also, played a vital role in promoting inclusion and equity in educational field. So efforts have been made in order to ensure that students from all the language backgrounds, all the ethnic backgrounds have access to education in their mother tongue. So this has involved developing curriculum materials in multiple languages and providing support for students who are learning in a language that is not their first language. The last point that we are going to discuss is the impact on the subjects. Language policy decisions have influenced the inclusion or exclusion of certain subjects in the curriculum. If we take an example, the teaching of English as a second language has been given a considerable importance due to its status as a global language. Additionally, vehement efforts have been made to promote the teaching of minority languages, literature, and cultural studies in the curriculum in order to preserve the cultural diversity and the hegemony. So, all in all, overall, language policy in Sri Lanka has shaped the curriculum development by determining the medium of instruction, promoting bilingual education, addressing regional and linguistic needs, promoting inclusion and equity, and also influencing the inclusion of specific subjects. So these policies reflect the government's efforts to balance language diversity and ensure equitable access to education for all communities in Sri Lanka. Sachini, I hope you got the answer for your question.
Now, turning our focus to Ms. Krishanti, we'd like to hear your perspective on teacher development and deployment. How has the language policy influenced the training and placement of teachers within the education system?
Thank you, Lanka, for inviting me to this session. In Sri Lanka, teacher development and deployment are crucial for ensuring equal education. The country recognizes the importance of continuous professional development, offering various training programs and resources through organizations like the National Institute of Education. And in-service training focuses on upgrading teachers' subject knowledge and teaching methodologies, addressing priorities like inclusive education and technology integration. At the same time, teacher recruitment and deployment aim for equitable distribution, considering students' population, geography, and special needs. And furthermore, teacher evaluation systems and performance appraisals help monitor and improve teaching quality, while monitoring programs provide guidance and support to novice educators. At the same time, collaboration and networking opportunities through professional associations and conferences facilitate knowledge share. At the same time, in Sri Lanka, also emphasizes equipping teachers with ICT skills for effective technology integration, addressing factors like fair remuneration, professional recognition, career advancement, and a supportive work environment helps motivate teachers. Finally, challenges remain, including limited resources and unequal access to professional development. Continued investment and focus on teacher development are necessary to further improvement education quality in education. I think you have got an idea about this, Lanka. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Miss Krishanti. Now let's turn our attention to Miss Bhagya, our final expert for today's discussion. Miss Bhagya, we'd like to explore the aspect of state intervention and non-state sector deployment concerning language policy. Could you please elaborate on this?
Thank you, Ms. Sachini. Thank you for inviting me to this valuable session. So now I'm going to explain and give you an answer about the state intervention and non-sector state deployment regarding language policy and English education. So the state intervention comes with three government bodies. First one is Ministry of Education. Second one is National Institute of Education, and the last one is Department of Education. So Ministry of Education is in Sri Lanka is responsible for formulating policies, setting standards, and regulating the education system. So it plays a vital central role in policy making, curriculum development, and resource allocation. So let's move on to National Institute of Education. So NIE is the key educational body in Sri Lanka that is responsible for teacher training, curriculum development, and research in education. So it offers training programs and resources for professional development. So the last government body which is responsible for language policy making is the Department of Education. So Department of Education is responsible for conducting national examinations, including ordinary level and advanced levels in level examination in Sri Lanka. So now I'm going to move on to non-state sector intervention in Sri Lankan education system and making the language policies. So private schools in Sri Lanka operate independently of the government education system and offer alternative education options. So these, for example, for these private schools are Colombo International School, Ladies College Colombo, Royal Institute, and Gateway College. So the next one is international schools. International schools in Sri Lanka follow international curricula and cater to students from diverse backgrounds. So some well-known international schools include the British School in Colombo, Overseas School of Colombo, Elizabeth Meyer School, Asian International School. So now I'm going to move on to the private tutoring centers. The private tutoring centers provide additional academic support and coaching to students outside regular school hours. So these private tutoring centers offer subject-specific tutoring and exam preparation. Some popular tutoring centers in Sri Lanka are Sakka Education of Sakka Academy of Higher Education, Lyceum Academy for Higher Education, Wisdom Business Academy, and Hamidias. So the Another important institution is vocational training institution. Vocational training institution is the non-state sector of a skill development and vocational education program. So they provide training in fields like technology, hospitality, automotive, and healthcare. So some of the examples for vocational training institutions are the Vocational Training Authority, which is VTA, Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology, we know it as SLIT, and Asian Aviation Center, Institution of Human Resource Management, IHRA. So these are the examples for vocational training institutions. So now I'm going to move on to the educational NGOs. Non-governmental organizations also play a vital role in the non-state sector by providing educational interventions, particularly in underserved communities. So the examples for educational NGOs in Sri Lanka include Sarvodaya Shramadana Movement, Educated Lanka Foundation, Room to Read Sri Lanka, Child from Sri Lanka, like that. So these are the state intervention includes three government bodies, and non-state intervention can include five institutions and NGOs and all. So these non-state sector intervention contribute to the diversity of educational options available in Sri Lanka, and it provide alternative pathways for students' educational needs. So that's all about state interventions and non-state intervention. I think, Ms. Sachini, you got the answer for your question.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Bhagsha. As we conclude this enlightening discussion on language policy in Sri Lanka, we extend our heartfelt appreciation to our esteemed panel of experts. Your valuable insights on curriculum development, teacher deployment, and state intervention have been invaluable for this program.
Okay, so to our viewers, thank you for joining Genius Talk. So keep learning and growing, and stay tuned for more inspiring episodes. So goodbye and take care.